sirens glare. Feel the static in the air. Next gen rising, we don't care about the fear clinging there. Step in line, hear the beat drop. Body, mind, so we don't stop. Don't stop. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, don't ask why. This is how we're born to fly. March to the future, neon glow. Through the fire we will grow. Every move a deadly flow. Next gen rising, let it show. Eyes ahead, the rhythm calls. Stand up tall, we break the walls. Train it up, train it high. Next gen reaching for the sky. Push the limit, don't ask why. This is how we're born to fly.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, the coach in the building tonight. Good to have you guys back. It's good to be back. Been away for a couple weeks, so it's good to certainly get this show start again and to continue with embarking on. And it's time. Hopefully, you guys found this information useful. And, certainly looking forward to your participation, both in the chat and also to share the information later on and to with people who could benefit from the information that we're sharing. But I'm glad to be back. And so, as always, it's good to be on, certainly with the coach. But before we go there, just a little housekeeping before we get started. Just as you come in, just make sure, again, click that like and subscribe button. Make sure that you, certainly support the channel. Certainly we'll have a lot of different shows that cover a lot of different topics. So I think you'll find something, your flavor for basically anything on this channel. And the only thing we ask is certainly in the chat that you certainly keep it respectful. Again, no personal attacks, insults, or threats. Avoid offensive language, including slurs based on race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. Be courteous and polite to viewers. Let's just be good to each other in this space. But I'm always good to share the stage with my 7B brother. And as you can see here, yes, this is a very exclusive club that we're in. You gotta shave the head. You gotta let your bald head shine, so that men can kind of see your see your head illuminate a little bit. But good to be part of the club. But Coach, how you been? How you been doing, and how you doing in your pies?
What's up? Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Just mid-summer week, mid-summer days. So just paying attention really is.
Mhm.
I look at the world every day. I don't just look at certain sections of this place and that place. I like to know what's going on in every sector, the good and the bad sometimes.
Right.
Because, in case I have to move, I want to be able to move in a way that's going to at least give me a 50 or better chance of making it to safe ground. That's how I operate.
Right. Right.
But, physically, I get tired of talking about physically sometimes because physically my body is just breaking down in real time. So, and I,
Hmm.
I do what I can. I've been to so many therapists as far as physical therapists and exercises and things. None of that can really help. So I just, do my best to just try not to think about it and just let it do what it do.
Hmm.
Uh, Unless you're taking a whole, even medicine don't help. None of that helps. I don't know if you haven't started having muscle and joints sort of have those problems. That's different
Yeah.
than, what I'm saying. Those slow killers you don't really feel, but with those ones that's dealing with your neurological, your bones and your muscles, you feel every tweak in that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I just try to do the best I can and manage it. Intellectually, that's what helps me able to learn. Just staying in current events, really. Not really, like I said, it's not about paying attention to it, but knowing it's there and knowing how to move away from it in a safe
Hmm.
way. So I just, I've read books in the past and I just took bits and pieces of one, because I understood it was every person's personal journey. So I just utilized it all. And every year to me, it was just getting older. Now I'm getting to the age where I don't care,
Mm. Really?
much
Yeah.
of I've had to survive in America. And, although there was opportunity, um, I, I understood what it was like being a black man having to navigate through not just my neighborhood, but culturally and uh, uh, economically and socially and working with other races and people. I work with every race, um, one, almost every race. Yeah, I've had even some of the newer immigrants that come from
Right.
it's more, yeah, Ukraine and Israel. I've worked with those people, right? So I just always respected cultures. That was easy for me to respect other people, man, woman, child.
Hmm.
I never really had problems with young people like want to fight me and argue with me. I never had that.
Hmm.
I've had some players disagree, but once we had a conversation, we was on the same point, So
Right. Right.
and then they embrace trying to be better. So I was cool with that.
Gotcha.
And emotionally, like I said, I'm getting to the point where I don't really care. I care about life in itself in general, but not just intentional pain and hurt and trauma. I fight against that all day.
Right.
I know that everybody's journey ain't mine. So, but I'm not gonna attach it to me. I'm just gonna use it to say, okay, I know that this won't happen to me unless it's life or death. Especially something that's dealing with people. Because being a good person for me is not being a good person for somebody else. And I've
Yeah.
always, I don't know what it was, man. Just looking back, I was always cool with being by myself. I didn't follow the crowd type of dude. I didn't get bullied. Guys didn't push on me. Um, we didn't. I wasn't around people who cursed at each other, and we smoked our little weed on Fridays because we didn't play ball on Fridays. We was teenagers. I had a girlfriend. We was doing way too much. And then just coming into an adulthood, I just knew that I had to do things always better than my situation at the time. Growing up, I don't have a lot of bad stories about house parents. My father, I understood he was an alcoholic early. I used to read. I'm like, oh, okay. And mother,
Right.
she was one of the most giving people that I ever met. I've always respected that type of person. My aunties were nice to me. I had all aunties. All my uncles was married into the family, and all the aunties was sisters. So I seen my mother do a lot of for people. Um, Babysitting, helping homeless people. My father, he was a workaholic, worked a lot, done things beyond any of us modern Gen Xers could do. He created and invented machines that are still in operation today. And he never talked about that shit to me. So I had to just figure things out. And I think I did okay. I didn't get off into crimes, none of that. I didn't get off into, all my dirt was dealing with women, I would say, mostly, you know what I'm saying? And besides high school, it was a little early college, smoke a little weed, but I still studied. I still went to the library. I still, stayed away from nonsense. And then, working, looking for a job after college because I didn't go to 4 years. I just sort of went a couple years because I hurt my knee. They took a scholarship. I was like, I ain't asked my parents for no money. I just remember that journey, man. And I love every part of it. I can talk about my personal journey for hours and hours, but I also can understand the journey of today. And that's why I think I relate to more young people in a sense, because I can try to get them to understand that their condition is only temporary and there's certain steps that they must take. The world that we in now, and everybody in their feelings about everything, feel. That doesn't help a man in his 40s and 50s.
Interesting.
And over our lifetime, have we ever been given opportunity to speak over our feelings? No. You didn't have no men's groups where everybody the world is tough. You didn't have that. You didn't have that until now.
So do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's good and bad.
Okay.
Because it has to be done at an earlier stage.
Right, but I mean,
today is just residual effects. Are you going to use those? Because think about it. We've survived the worst of our lives.
Sure.
So most people don't embrace that journey along that, right? So then they in this position, they're like, damn, what do I do? But instead of acting on those great ideals, those great energies that they get, they let fear restrain them because they're thinking about everybody else's. Are they good? Are they good? Oh, what are they going to think? And that's where you get trapped.
I'll tell you what, Coach, because what you're saying here, that might be another show.
Yeah, that's another show.
I know we do a lot with Next Gen, but I wouldn't mind having a session because I think I have my own views on that. And, we may, have different opinions on that overall, but I wouldn't mind having the show because I think you do have, again, especially with Gen. I think Gen X is probably the group that has gone through the most transitions within the generation. I think that certainly generations that came before, your life was pretty much the same, but we're kind of old school. We've had to embrace the new school. We raised the generation that thinks different. And for a lot of us, again, we didn't have that bandwidth or time to really cope with what was going on. We just kind of persevered on. But then you still had people who still are not necessarily whole. So that might be a conversation that we may want to have as a show. To talk about Gen X, the state of Gen X men, or Gen X men and women.
Yeah, we can that'd be a good show to bring some other people up after about the next hour or so. That'd be a good conversation.
Sure. Yeah. So we can certainly prepare for that in a future show. And talk about that in depth because I think that's something that and I think because it's Gen X, I think you're gonna have a lot of different views on it. I think some, if you're closer to the baby boom side or if you're closer to the millennium side, there's 20 years there, 15, 20 years. So you can have different years. You can have different certainly views on that. So that may be a good topic to explore in the future, and I'll talk to you offline about that. See how we can really craft that together. But overall, one thing I did want to get into, because one of the things with pies, which I'm discovering is, and I took your advice. Me and my wife really haven't gone into it deep, but I've gone into it with all three of my daughters and my nephew because I had lunch with him last week, and so we kind of got into it a bit on the pies. And one thing I'm noticing with the having it is that it can do two things. One, again, you can go deeper to really find out what's going on with an individual. But let's say if you're there for like an agenda, you can still go ahead with the agenda, but it can also be a doorway into exploring other topics based on what was communicated. So, I mean, with you, one of the things that I think about with you, because you've gone through so much, you've seen so much, you've worked with so many people. I I can't help but think about you, the man, the person. Like, what does Coach do for himself? Like, really to relax.
Oh shoot, that's easy.
Like, I'm talking. I'm not. I'm talking. Like, I
When I
could see you.
relax,
I could see you
bro.
driving to a beach. Now you in Kentucky, so that might be kind of. There's not a lot of beach, but I could see you on a beach, on the ocean, just in your hammock, just laying there with your drink or whatever, and just relaxing, just kind of soaking in the sun, the waves, the relaxing, or the nature trail or something. But what do you do to like really unwind? But I just want to see you like really in chill mode, in your happy place, your lady next to your side or whatever, you guys just in the hammocks overlooking the ocean or whatever. I just see that for you. But is that something that you enjoy, or something that you I just kind of I just want to, if I could just snap my fingers, I would put you on the beach right now. Hawaii, you and your lady, hammock, y'all in there just on the beach. You got the drinks there, holding hands next to each other, and just don't worry about nothing. I could see that, but it
You
seemed like
know what,
you're like
brother?
fighting.
No, I'll say this right. Just that scene, we would be in the water. We wouldn't be sitting down. We would be in the water.
Okay,
I'd be trying to catch a wave. I'm embracing my atmosphere.
right.
For me to relax, and I've been relaxing for a long time. I like to watch a good sports game. I like to sit out. Like me, if me and my wife, I like to go to a park. You know what I'm saying? I like to sit outside. I like to see. I'm that type of guy. My zone is when I'm building stuff. When I'm have to, when I have to do, put shells and do things and fix my car. That's my zone. That's I can sit there and chit chat and have my music playing in the background and go through a little. You know what I'm saying? This is when I was at my best.
So
Now
so
things are
coach can't.
different.
So coach, you can't be still.
I, I can be still when I'm in my chair watching the TV and I got the remote on automatic
That's still
switch back.
that's still a lot of input. Like I said, I'm like I want to put you somewhere where you just see the nature and the wind and just so. I'm not saying it's got to be the whole time, but I know for me, I'm embracing more of that now. I used to be like, yeah, I always got to be busy.
You would have to
And what
put me
I'm
on the
what
boat,
I'm
bro.
what I'm doing, or what I'm trying to do, is to be less busy. And when I mean less busy, I mean less busy up here, because this is always racing, always trying to do something. And but I appreciate just the environment where it's me and my lady, and if my dog is there, and we're you know just calm, man. I mean, it's I still got that dog. I still want to be productive, and I still want to do things and conquer the world and all. I still have that ambition to do things. But as I've gotten older, I'm appreciating now the the beauty of emptiness, the beauty
Bro.
of not doing anything, just relaxing. I ain't gotta worry about time. I don't worry about, okay, I gotta be here at a certain time. I do something until I'm tired of doing it, and then I just kind of move on to something else. Like I said, me and the wife, we're gonna go to dinner. We're gonna go to hit the club after. We're gonna dance. We're gonna do all that. But like when we go on vacation now, it's like one day we're doing absolutely nothing. We just go and chill. Either we chill in the room, or we get our swimsuits on. We're gonna hit the pool or the beach or whatever, and we just gonna not do anything. But back earlier, it was just agenda. It was like 7:30 to 10. We doing
Nah.
this, and then so yeah, I'm learning how to relax and how to enjoy not having to worry about what's next
Right.
on the agenda.
And see, Brother Bennett, that's why I think me and you are opposite, right? Because
Hmm.
I've always embraced that time to relax and do nothing. Me and you described something that we actually have been doing since I met Mo, since we got in a
Hmm.
marriage. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be 2 or 3 days. Even if I'm working, I'm off because I like to take care of things beforehand. But I always get that little vacation time in the middle. relaxing, chilling, just not doing nothing. Even if it's, and what is not doing nothing? We stay in the house, we stay in the room, we hugging, we watching TV, fall
Yeah.
asleep. You know what I'm saying? Rub each other's feet and shoulders. But then sometimes our doing nothing is, we going places. We like to see the sights sort of early so we can avoid it. But then by the time the
Hmm.
sun set, we like to be back in our own little hideout, just enjoying that whole operation.
Hmm.
And I think for me, I've always found that space, especially when I was in the
Right.
military. I found a lot of space where, man, when I went to the Middle East, I think that really balanced my emotions out
Yeah.
because I didn't have no control of something bigger than the space that I was doing. And I've never really had that. Yeah, I think in me, I'm trying to just make sure that I can maintain my faculties and do what I need to do because I like to do more than one task.
Hmm.
I can go from we can be we're dropped off in the middle of the woods right now, brother Bennett, and you do your thing like the show Survival.
Yeah.
I can survive off of that, boom, because I'm
Right.
already thinking how would I already
Right.
know sort of the platform where I need to start and go from there.
I
And
got
that's
you.
how. And now I got too much stuff. I don't need no more stuff. I'm thinking about trying to have a yard sale or my wife like I don't need no more stuff. I got
Right.
stuff, new stuff in boxes there, and I'm at a point now when I'm ready to give those things
That's
away.
it. Yeah, strip it down. I
So
totally get that. And
yeah,
yeah, like I said, just a simpler life. Now, the only thing with me that's different, you said you could do a lot of that stuff at home.
yeah, I like doing that stuff. That's my peace.
Home for me is noisy.
Okay,
It's like as far as relaxing at home, it's like because my ear is attuned to everything. It could be the refrigerator if the refrigerator doesn't sound right, or something creaky that
yeah,
got right, and then my mind's like, okay, I got to look at that.
yeah,
When I talk about I don't want to worry about it, my wife and I will go intentionally. We'll go like an hour away just to get a hotel room for a couple
okay.
days,
Little staycation. Yeah,
just because I don't want to deal with home. I don't want to deal with. I don't want to hear mail. I don't want to see FedEx drivers. I want to be able to just be in my birthday suit and not worry about who's coming over. You know what I'm saying? Like just
telephone ring and none of that, huh?
no.
Yeah,
Like I said, home is not like I said. Now I don't have sleeping problems. I'll go to
right.
sleep in a minute. But I'm just saying. But if I want to talk that sense of really tranquil,
Yeah.
my wife and I will just get away for a couple of days. We'll go down Atlanta. We're in Jersey, so we'll go down to Atlantic City for 3-4 days
Okay.
and
Don't
barely
y'all
come
got the
out.
train? What train line y'all got go up
Now
at
it
the
does.
coast?
There's not one that goes down. I mean, you can take one to Philly, and then you get on the. You can
Okay.
take it, but they don't have like direct transit directly out of
That's
AC out
crazy right
to
there,
any of those
man.
other places. But
Okay.
it's just the idea of being away from everything.
Yeah, I got you.
It's a different mind space than just being
Yeah, I'm
here,
always
where
away from
anything can pop off at any time. One of my daughters can come in at any time, or the dog wants us or something, or just something always going on here. So it's when I think about relaxation, even if my house there's nothing going on, the house is loud.
Okay, yeah. See, my house is mine.
So I gotta,
Quiet.
I gotta get out of town. But again, maybe that might be another time. How do you relax?
Yeah, just
That might be another topic also, but we can
yeah,
go into that. But
maybe something.
let's get into the topic tonight. But again, we want to thank you guys. Sorry, we kind of launched over it a little bit as far as stuff, but that's part of what Pies does. It can be a doorway into a conversation and explore different aspects. Like I just learned something about Coach just in that little conversation that we had that I didn't know about him before. I know more about him now than before, and hopefully he knows something more about me. It's the ability to exchange. So again, Pi's work, I think, can really help to enrich the quality of your relationships, and that you think you may know somebody, but you get to know them on a deeper level. And so we encourage people certainly to go through the exercise, and we may even explore more of that in the future of how to use Pies in your relationships to again hopefully enrich them and you can certainly grow from that. But certainly we're going to continue with the topic. But usually, as always, any questions that you may have for me and Coach, you can certainly drop the email NXTGEN Training 101 NextGen Training 101 at gmail.com. Ask us a question and whatnot, and your question may very well be the topic on an upcoming and future show. And so you can just drop your questions there. But we're going to continue in the series that we've been talking about for some time now. So again, the intelligence types. So what we've been exploring in this space is that especially things that manifest early. People have aptitudes and different abilities and interests in different things. And so we've been exploring that topic of the different types of intelligence. This work was done by Howard Gardner many years ago. He started to frame these types of types of intelligence, and to help parents and educators to help to really connect with children, to connect with people, so that they can be their fullest selves. And a lot of times we only teach to a couple types of intelligence. In fact, those types of intelligence we're going to deal with tonight. It's not to say that those aren't important, but I think a lot of times the way our educational system is, a lot of times we only prioritize those, and we leave a lot on the table. So this chart here deals with all the different types of intelligence that he outlines in his materials. And so we started out with, and there's also a questionnaire. You go online. There's questionnaires that you can go to and ask a series of questions, so you can kind of understand, again, where your interests or where your aptitudes are. So here's one from IDR Labs, and then there's another one on Very Well Mind that'll, again, ask you a series of questions to at least get the conversation started, or get you on the path of exploring other sides of your your intelligence, and certainly where those interests lie. But we started out dealing with, again, interpersonal versus intrapersonal intelligence. We dealt with that idea. Again, certainly those who have interpersonal intelligence are very self-aware. Interpersonal, certainly good with people and working with others. Then we dealt with, again, there's musical intelligence. People have aptitudes for music and whatnot. And those who are body kinesthetic, those who are very just natural born athletes or natural born dancers, that, movement. Some people are just born with two left feet. Some of these folks, they just come out the crib and just able to do certain things. It just needs to be channeled in the right direction. Then we dealt with the idea of spatial intelligence versus naturalistic intelligence. These people have a high aptitude for the world around them in different spaces. And also, when dealing with these types of intelligence, we've also dealt with the type of activities that you can do to encourage, to build the curiosity for learning and knowledge and advancement, as well as potential career opportunities and paths that you may want to look at when it comes to the the intelligence type. But today, we're going to be dealing with the ones that I think most people are familiar with, because again, if you've been certainly in the educational system of the United States, if you've taken any kind of standardized test, whether it be SAT or ACT, or some other, pre-SAT and whatnot, usually those exams usually go to pretty much split down the middle between, again, the mathematical type of intelligence and the linguistic. Your reading comprehension, as well as the math part of the test. And I know in earlier tests, I think they might have changed over the last few years, but they kind of measured those things equally. Those other types of intelligence, while they may be useful, really may not factor in necessarily into how you do on those. But at the same time, I think a lot of those intelligence types can also help you learn what you need in order for you to do better in these areas. So again, you may learn, like I'm for the most part a visual learner. Like if I want to understand math, I'd rather see the math than just see a formula written on a board like the young lady in the picture here. But if you can kind of show me how that math works, then that helps me to better understand the words or the equations behind the math. So again, understanding the type of intelligence that you have, it can certainly help guide you to these areas, which again are important. Because again, I don't think our educational system is going to be changing anytime soon. One of the reasons why I wanted to go into this was to get people to understand that, look, we're not saying that we're going to change or radically change the educational system and everyone's just going to learn on a different level. In order to get access to certain things, you're going to have to go through certain doors. So if you do not do well, for example, you want to go to advanced studies in zoology because you just love nature, well, you're going to have to do well on mathematical and linguistic standardized tests in order to gain access so you can do the things that you want to do. So again, we're not saying that the world or certainly the United States that's going to be changing anytime soon. But what we are saying is that certainly you can almost look at this as sort of almost like a reward, that you do the things that you need to do so you can do the things that you want to do. And so Coach, just your initial thoughts on these types. I think these were what most people are familiar with. And also I want to know, since you worked in education year review, because from what I understand, you certainly have some colleges that are going away from standardized tests when it comes to the admission process. I know some schools would take the ACT, some take the SAT, some take both, and some schools, from what I understand, are actually looking to do away with some of these standardized tests because I guess they don't think that they necessarily are true measures of intelligence. And certainly we've been exploring this topic of other types of intelligence. But just what's your general view on standardized tests and why we have so much emphasis on these two types of intelligence when we measure how smart a person is?
To me, it'd be a disgrace if they take them away, just because the baselines are starting at a deficit in the beginning. But I think it's important to sort of have a fundamental aspect and concept of all of these languages, like, because linguistics just gonna bring in all the syntax, the context, and all the different little meanings of things or words, how words may be spelled alike but mean two different things. So in math, everyday life is math. Everyday life is math. You got a birth date. We going into the years. Everything is math. The angles, everything. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
to me, just with education, linguistics and being able to, have the ability to write starts in the mind. But you have to be able to put your thoughts and your words together on paper.
Right.
So, and people that master that, good movie writers, script writers, people like that. Tyler Perry, he's mastered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
50 Cent has mastered it, but Tyler Perry, he speaks to an agenda. He speaks to the worst agendas that we don't need to see.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see the uplift and Cosby aspect of it in
Mm-hmm.
that category. Movies are great. Another example for action-packed movies. These movies that now generated with AI, and how they're going to play a role into the future of acting. Because I don't see any new young actors coming through the game,
Mm-hmm.
learning that capacity. But math, I love math and science, especially for the future, because math is everything. Math is everything, and education doesn't teach numbers and math early on. They don't do that. The ones that do, they're almost prodigies in a sense. But they're born with that natural gift. But I think, if, as far as education, we've always had a broken dialect in English. We've always had a similar broken, but that's why the linguistics, words, learning how to spell words is very important. Learning definitions of words, all of that's important going for the future. But also not just the English language. These other languages, Spanish, Latin, those languages are universal. along with if you can speak English in another language, you can travel the world
Mm,
at very little expense to you.
right.
But
Did you learn a second language, or did you?
it wasn't offered. I came, I was a year before it started. I could have learned Latin, but I didn't like Latin. I wanted to learn Spanish. I could have learned Latin, but I didn't like Latin. And something early told me, like,
If you're there through,
oh,
I think you're back.
I'm
I
sorry, am
lost you
I
for a
fading
second.
out?
No, you
Oh,
good
okay,
now.
yeah,
I
I
lost you
was,
for a second.
yeah, I could have took Latin, but I didn't really like Latin at the time. And
Hmm.
plus, it was mid of high school. But yeah, I was like, I wanted Spanish, so I just didn't bother. But then when I started getting into my career, I understood that they were offering more opportunities for bilingual speaking. So that was one thing that I look back like, man, I probably should have took it. But most languages that they sort of are using as secondary is a Spanish foreign language. Math, again, my wife is a math person, man. She's
Hmm.
taken the astronaut test a couple times and scored
Mm.
high. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
96, 97, 98. You know. So
Right.
I was like, yeah, you go ahead and keep the numbers together. I know how to do all the great, you know, I'm gonna multiply, divide, subtract, add that, and I'm gonna do that pretty quick. The pies, you handle that part. I can do I've always been pretty decent with math. Yeah, I could. I passed all my classes, depending on how much effort I put in. Even in college, taking stats, taking other classes, so I was okay.
Right.
I always prided myself on having average or above average.
Right.
Sometimes excellent. It depends on how much effort I put into it. But
Right.
I think math and the people who can master math in the future, and that's math, science, and well, math, science, yeah, math and science, pretty much are going to be the ones that have a prosperous future.
Hmm. Well, certainly, I think I'm mostly with you on the math piece. I think the one thing where there's sometimes a disconnect, like when you said math is everything, I don't think we do enough, at least in certainly with middle school and high schoolers. I don't think we do enough in order to connect the dots in terms of why or and what ways does math is part of your everyday life. Because I think a lot of it, a lot of these things, I remember when I was in school, there were just certain subjects or whatever I just got through just because I had to get through them. I
Right,
didn't necessarily understand them, and a lot of it was just rote memorization,
right,
just to learn. But I didn't understand
right.
how everything. So again, I think we're not doing enough in, and again, that may also again goes to those other intelligence types. You can look at math in any of those other intelligence types. There's math in music. But do
Yes,
people put two and two together in terms that
but
there's math in sports or dancing or what? I mean, especially
yeah,
now with analytics in sports, there's
yeah.
a ton of math there. But we don't do enough to show young people
But
those connections as to why it's important. We just say just study this and take the test.
but that's part of the old education. That's part of the old education. They just wanted you to be able to memorize, but not learn the meaning.
Correct.
It's to kill all of that, Brother Bennett. When I was student teaching, I figured it out. Everything is numbers, and that's all I used to say. I see you don't hear everything is numbers. How is everything number? And because I just like to do the back and forth, and it's crazy because the kid would say, "How's there everything numbers?" Simple. Give me your birth date is all numbers. Your address is numbers and letters. Everything is numbers and letters, and even the numbers, the your address is in a certain sequence of other numbers. Everything you do in life is about and how many steps you take. It's a certain distance that your natural walk is a certain inch away from the foot.
Hmm.
And I used to just have to use it seems elementary,
Hmm.
which it is, but I've always say, hey, there's a connection into your life, how you can do it. Everything has a time because time, even a time is a number. This is what, July 31st, 2000. Uh, we started the show 30 minutes ago at 7 o'clock. See, it's always a number in that.
Hmm.
And and once they and not everybody, you know what I'm saying, because some people didn't get the basics of 12 times 12, 12 times 4, 4. That's where it starts, right? To me,
Hmm.
elementary is where it should be, especially about fifth and sixth grade, the concepts of different numbers, how they make different things. You add something, take away something. The PEMDAS is important. I used
Yeah.
to break it down, and when students learn the PEMDAS method, that's a sequence that you follow every time to get the same positive result. But they don't teach it. They don't teach it. They just say, and they don't make math fun.
Right.
Math has to be fun. But again, that's part of the teaching of the programming in America's students. Because
Right.
teachers that use that method, they have success with their students.
No, no question. No question. And I think on the linguistic side, I think it's certainly it's relevant. Like I said, to the ability to communicate.
Hmm.
And again, you have to be able to again have a certain vocabulary, how to put words together, how to say things properly, depending on your audiences and whatnot. I guess the only thing with linguistics that I always had an issue with was again, certainly in America, you're gonna go through literature, right? And it was always what they called the classics, right? So Shakespeare, you know, and I'm not saying like I didn't dislike some of that, like Macbeth was crazy to me. In fact, one time we saw the film, old '60s film, Macbeth, in school, and that was one of the most shocking movies I ever saw. I mean, it was like really, it was a head trip, and I was kind of surprised because it was like very violent. It was a very and for the '60s, a very bloody, violent
Hmm.
movie for Macbeth. But
Hmm.
a lot of these classics that I think a lot of kids would really get into things if they had an interest in the subject. But a lot of times they say, well, you must study these books or whatever that may relate to the life of individuals, but it may not necessarily be your experience. But I think a lot of kids, for example, now I grew up reading comic books.
Yes.
Now,
Oh,
I think those are just are valuable if you want to talk about storytelling,
yes.
right? Those are about. But again, no classroom worth their salt is going to value comic books
No.
because it's not, you know, sophisticated, right?
Right.
So I think even in our educational system, they try to sort of shove things down your throat that was like, well, how is this relevant to my life in my situation? What is learning Romeo and Juliet? How's that going to affect me? Or some other stories of people or persons, Catcher in the Rye, certain books. And again, I'm not saying that, and it's interesting because a lot of those books now, I think I might appreciate them that I'm older than when I was a kid. Again, it was like you read the stuff, you had to write the essay. What's this book about? What's the topic or whatever? What's the main idea? And even then, it was someone else's interpretation of the book. Like if you wrote an essay on a book, it had basically the way teachers graded you is there was a theme in the book that you had to co-sign on. If I said I don't agree with anything in this book, this is how I see it or whatever, if you didn't give them the answer that they wanted, they would still fail you for it, even though you're basically saying, yeah, I understand what happened in the book, but I'm saying my conclusions based on the topic might be different from yours. But you weren't graded on whether or not you understood or comprehended the book. You were graded on your comprehension of the book based on someone else's interpretation of the book.
Yeah. And that's
And so
why.
I was never again a fan of that. You did it,
Yeah.
but then you don't have an appreciation because no one is allowing other voices or opinions or
And
views on a topic to be expressed.
but that's bigger than the educational system. That's the whole that's the ones passing down the information through the books.
Hmm.
That's the ones who, when people go to college to become teachers, that's the information that's being omitted. That's part of that, you know what I'm saying? This is America. And
Yeah.
that's part of the educational diaspora, right? Because it's not teaching forward thinking, individual thinking, analytical thinking. It's teaching follow the system, especially in education. And that's why a lot of students intentionally, well, it's not intentional. That's why a lot of students struggle,
Yeah.
especially to understand those concepts earlier. Because if America changed its education to more math and the more different learning styles, America would probably be the strongest country in the world.
Right. But as the comment was saying, it's cookie cutter in terms of not only, like I said, the math makes sense to me because math is math, right? Math is like universal, formulas and theories and laws and the things that
Everything is
govern
math.
math. But literature, like you and we can join a book club next week and we can be reading the same book and we can chop
Have
it up,
fun.
come to totally different conclusions
Totally different.
on what we got from the book. But from a grading perspective, there's either a right answer or a wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Totally
we're
right.
also being sort of taught how to think how to think a certain way versus how to think independently. So,
There you go.
I think those are are dampeners and why. So again, we have an educational system that again puts a lot of weight, which I'm not saying it shouldn't, on math and certainly on linguistic in terms of the ability to communicate, but ideas is certainly something that could be limiting, and again, it could be a limitation in terms of how people embrace these subject matters. But let's get into certainly the linguistic type. Okay, just that we're following the same format we have been doing. So again, you guys can go back and watch the previous shows, and on the other topics that we've done, we're following a similar format. So a linguistic type or what's called word smart. Again, the strengths, again, reading, writing, storytelling, again, mastering languages. The one thing, certainly about being American is like you really have to work. Most people I know speak multiple languages because most people I work with, especially in the IT field, they're from India, they're from China, whatever. So they already know 2, sometimes 3 languages. Like in India, there's Hindi, which is like the official language of the country, but then you got within all the states in India, you got Telugu and Gujarati and whatnot. So most people come over here speaking 3 or 4 languages, and obviously they have to speak English. But here, you have to really work. I took 5 years of Spanish, but I didn't really get good at it until I worked. I worked at a McDonald's in high school from age 16 to 20. I worked at McDonald's in where my college town is, and we had a lot of Latin folks there who a lot of them didn't really speak good English. So I got good conversationally with Spanish, working in or being submersed in that environment. The classroom stuff is one thing, but conversationally, when you're with the people and things of that nature, that's like another level. So I got fairly decent. But as soon as I left that job, I had no reason to speak it. I wasn't immersed in the environment enough to kind of keep it going. Now, I can still read it relatively well. If you give me like a Spanish newspaper or a book, I can figure out what's going on. But when people speak to me, I know words. I know a lot of words, but I lost the ability to kind of translate on the fly. My processor is slowed down tremendously. So I may have to say, can you speak more slowly? Por favor, habla más despacio. I can say that. Or you might have to say it 2 and 3 times before I get it. But it's certainly something that one of my regrets is that I wasn't in an environment enough to keep it going. But certainly it was useful. Certainly in that job and other opportunities that I had, and now the fact that my wife and I are traveling a little bit more, going to Latin countries and whatnot, being able to understand what's going on. But I can read, street signs and, highway signs. I know the words, but the language is a lot of times it's just too fast.
Brother Bennett, man. Okay, so listen, so it tells the tale, right? The early foundation that you got it, man, in high school, man. Yeah, and the proximity of being around that culture, right? They speaking it and you picking it up early and young. That sort of put you in a position to be sort of like projective in a sense, right? That just that early foundation, right? And then like you said, it wasn't so much school that you got ingrained into it. It was in the community, you just working around them, right?
Well, yeah, if you want to talk about like being comfortable conversationally, because like I said, in the classroom, you're writing down or you're listening to something. You got to write the translation down.
Yeah.
You're not doing a lot of speaking
Right.
in a Spanish class.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of memorization.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when you want to get come now. Now my nephew. Now he's been in Latin culture most of his life. Like his church, for example, they would go on missionary trips to like Costa Rica and all these places. He is not only fluent in Spanish, he is fluent in dialects. Yeah, Dominican, Costa Rican, Colombian. I was just with him, like I said, this past Saturday. We go to a Costa Rican, so we go to these different restaurants. Last time before that, we went to a Peruvian restaurant. Then this time we went to a Costa Rican restaurant. I get there 5 minutes late. He was already there. By the time I got in there, he's conversing with everybody, the owner of the restaurant. He's just kicking at everybody. Then he says, "Oh, es mi tío. It's my uncle." They came and embraced me like I was like a lost son or something like that. It's like he just knows how to blend. Yeah, he even spent some time in Brazil. He even knows a little his Portuguese is upscale. So he is clearly someone who has an ability to master language, but he's in it. That he listens to his Latin music. I mean, he really is immersed. I have no doubt that his wife is going to be from a Latin American country.
No doubt.
No doubt about it.
Anything go down and y'all got the posse up, man, you make sure you put him with you, man, like you with me. He's a valuable asset. But again, he wasn't restricted to just American education. He wasn't. Most countries outside of America are allowed to learn those different cultures in a sense. They even learn American. There's I just had a nephew. He just got back from where did he go? China. I think he went to China for a whole year. He did go over and teach. I had a niece some years ago. They go over and make 100,000 thousand, come back teaching students American English. Right. And they go through the linguistics of it too. See, there's students that are pretty good with these linguistics. Right. There's opportunities outside of America.
Right.
So yeah, salute to that, man. Yeah, salute to your nephew,
no question.
Man.
Yeah, no question. He is.
Your nephew can do that, man. Yeah, salute to him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, but it goes beyond just speaking the language. His personality is such, it's infectious. Yeah, like all these girls, you be seeing the ladies, the way it don't matter if they're young or old.
I know
they just because I think in part the fact that he has an interest in the culture, like it makes him different. Yeah. Because you got blacks in these Latin countries, right? Like Afro Costa Ricans, right? You got them. Like if it was just one of them there, they probably pay him no mind. Mm-hmm. But the fact that when he says, "Oh no, I'm an American, I'm an African American who just loves Spanish and Spanish culture," they love him.
Yeah.
It's like it's a different vibe than if he was just an average guy from that country, whatever. He may even looked at.
He's authentic. They know, they can see it in him. It shines on him, the fact that he's that type of person.
Yeah.
People can recognize it.
Yeah, but the ladies just, I mean, when we left the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant, I thought she had left, but me and him, we took a picture outside because they had this mural work outside the restaurant. So we took a picture. She comes back and she wants to take a picture with us. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just, but she's like 5 foot nothing, and we're like both over 6'3",
Yeah.
and so we like,
You wasn't gonna
you
pass
might
her
have thought we
long
were
enough.
Shaq and Kobe or something. We were like,
Ah,
starts. It's like, I got to get a picture with you guys. She was speaking in Spanish as she was saying it, but it was like,
man,
but
them
mostly I
6'2".
got cred because of him.
Yeah.
Because the way he said, and when he said, "Oh, it's my Theo," and they all about that respect. So it's like, "Oh, it's your uncle." Then they kind of gave me that shine. Now I couldn't understand. I understood half of what was being said. Like my mind was working. Okay, I know they said this word and that word, but my mind's like, okay, I still got to put these things together. So by
Yeah.
the time I figure it out, they already said 2 or 3 sentences
Yeah,
since then.
I got you.
So,
It was all good. Hey man, listen, man, I have a meet up with you in your town, man. I want your nephew to come along with us,
oh
man.
yeah, yeah. Any excursion,
I want
any
him to be right there, like, man.
any excursion, I'm telling you, he's just a master of people. I mean, he definitely has not only the linguistic, but he also has the interpersonal, because we talked about that earlier as well. I mean, he can get along with anybody,
Yeah, he had that.
and he can certainly make things happen. But just going to the characteristics again, highly articulate, love word games, communicate effectively through writing and speech. So again, you have people who are, who are just really into that, creative writing. In fact, that just goes into just some of the teaching tools, like what gets these people going. How can you supplement, even though a lot of our educational system is that, but how do you supplement that? Again, books of interest. Like me, I'm a book of interest guy. Like I won't just read anything. Like I said, if you gave me one of the classics right now, if you gave me like Wuthering Heights or whatever, I wouldn't get through 2 pages of it. You give me the autobiography of Malcolm X, then I'll get into it. You know what I'm saying? Like I love autobiographies, not biographies. I love autobiographies. I love hearing the voice of the person, seeing the story from their perspective. So again, if you give me a book that I'm interested in, now I can go. Or like I said earlier with the comic books, like again, I'm not gonna have my kid necessarily if unless it's classwork that's required, right? You got to read Huckleberry Finn or whatever it is. No, I'm gonna give them what they want to read. And if some of that's gonna come through comic books or graphic novels or whatever, then I'm gonna give them that also, as long as I get them reading. And so again, books are what they're interested in, not just what's in the classroom. But again, crosswords, spelling games. Now you got these apps that teach spelling, or you get rewards for spelling things correctly. Creative writing classes. Again, a lot of the educational system may not give you that, or you might have some college electives that may give you creative writing. But I know back in when I was in school, you could take creative writing. That gives you an opportunity to explore yourself. But again, not only the written, but also the through words. So again, oratory groups. Like you got, what's that group that does the oratory? I'm having a brain freeze right now. What's that group? Craft Masters, I think. I think it's called Craft Masters or something Masters, but it's a group that you learn how to speak oratory. You get up there, it could be you do poems, you do speeches. I think it's Craft Masters. I think is the is the group, but I know like a lot of parents enroll their kids in those organizations because they start young with these kids, and you go up there and you have to recite things in front of an audience. So they teach you how to speak publicly, and then acting, school plays, I mean, yes, doing all these other things. Now, again, and not every kid is going to be into sports. I'm not saying that physical fitness isn't important, but you have kids who would rather act than be playing basketball. And again, you got to know your kid, but to me, that's okay too. My thing is just, get up and do some fitness, do some push-ups and sit-ups or whatnot. But then, look, if you like acting, then go and act. If you like being in plays, then go and do plays. If you like reciting poetry or writing poetry or whatever, then go and do that. So I'm not saying that none of these things are not important. All of this is important. But certainly if you want to help the linguistic type, to really master their craft and get good at it, because and I can tell you those oratory groups, those who Toastmasters is what it is. Toastmasters, that's the group that does the oratory stuff. But I can tell you it helps, because when you have to go in and do interview for colleges, having the grammar, no one's saying you have to give up your ebonics, but you may have to code switch and be able to. I mean, having the ability. Yeah, when you're with your homies, that might be one way of speaking, or with your family, that might be one way of speaking. But you should be able to go into any room and be able to converse at the level, if not higher, of the group that you're in. And so, again, encouraging that early on. But I know a number of our friends, still friends today, and just seeing where their kids are. Their kids are better because they were in those type of groups that allowed them to practice how to speak publicly. I even took a public speaking class in college because I just need some extra credits, and I took a class, and I thought it was
good.
I thought that was
Brother
good.
Bennett, what's the largest audience you've ever spoken in front of?
I don't know exact count. I mean, hundreds. I would say hundreds. I would say an auditorium-sized crowd. Yeah.
Were you persuasive, or were you informative? And what's the third one? There's 3 categories to your speech. Were you persuasive or informative? Man, what's the third one, man? It's crazy. Because I think everybody over the last 40 years almost have had to take a public speaking class early off in their college years, within their first 2 years. So that helped me, especially when I was in the military. I used to have to give auditoriums full of soldiers, generals, majors, not generals, but majors, colonels, first sergeants. They're all career soldiers, and here I am, just a young soldier, and give them information up on the stage, walking back and forth about how to clear housing and the steps to take. And they would be asking me hundreds of questions, man. And it just gave me a lot of confidence in, how to handle an audience. Just being in that environment. And then when I went into the schools, where you talking first days, or the orientation days, speaking to I don't know, a few thousand people sometime. I didn't know if it was a strong suit, but it was something that I believe I became pretty good at that environment. But I'm not going to be the one to just pop out the blue moon and just try to be the center of attention.
Yeah, I'm definitely not that. I mean, to answer your question, I mean, one thing the things I've been asked to talk about, or when I need to present, generally it needs to be something that I'm passionate about.
Okay.
Like if you ask me to talk about something that I know very little about or whatever, I'm just trying to get through and just get off the stage.
Okay.
If it's something like, for example, if it's anything health, personal training, if you talk about physical fitness, how to exercise protocol, if you're talking certain things like that, I can go on and it just naturally comes out. It comes out of the passion that I have for the subject, one, the accuracy in which I'm presenting information. And usually I'm a PowerPoint guy. So like what I typically share here, the reason why I do all these shows that we've been doing since we've been doing this, I usually operate through a PowerPoint. I like having my points on the screen, and again, the visuals, because like I said, I'm a visual person. So I like to have pictures that speak to the topic that I'm working with. And so all of that helps me to create a narrative. It helps keep me on point, that I don't overspeak or talk too long. I like having my bullet points that I go to. Keeps me. But then the fact that I'm passionate about it, I think that comes through more than anything. And then at the end of the day, whether or not I was effective or not, I'll leave that up to the audience. Or I'll leave that up to the people who come up after and say, "Hey, you did a great job. Hey, that was terrific." And things. So I let the crowd decide whether or not I was effective or not. Like I never came off a stage or whatever and said, "Yeah, I nailed that."
Yeah,
I don't allow myself to even think that. My thing is, did it help the people that it was intended to help? Did I deliver on what I said I would what I would do? And if I did, then again, their commentary is all I needed. Or if someone had a critique, I would take it and I said, okay, I'll consider that for next time. But I never, especially since I used to be around a lot of, speakers and presenters and things of that nature. And I realized that a lot of stuff that they would do, they were just kind of shooting from the hip, whether or not they kind of knew what they were talking about or whatever, to the audience. That's the thing too. They don't know what you know or don't know.
right.
And so, but my thing is I had to feel good about when I came off the stage, like, did I cover what I was intending to cover? And so for me, the work is before I get up there. It's like the speaking is almost the easy part. But I want to make sure that, again, what I present, especially through a slideshow, if I got a slide deck, does that accurately reflect what I'm trying to convey? And then I just try to make it relatable. I try to make it, I don't do as much interactive. On occasion, I'll do interactive. But, I really try to make sure that I cover what I was there to talk about. I try not to overspeak or some people, and this is my biggest peeve about public speakers, especially in, certain individuals. You don't know when it ended. Like when people say finally or lastly, but there's three of them. Wait, you just said 10 minutes ago your last point, but then you had 2 or 3 points that you still said after that. They don't know how to wind it up. They don't know how to land the plane. And so, because they're not, because again, it's not sure to just come in. Some comes to the head and to speak on it. And again, a 30-minute speech becomes an hour speech. So that's always been something that I've always been mindful of. Get my points together, what I want to say. Well, someone told me this way. Geez, I forgot it's 3 points. It's, know what you want to tell them, then tell them what you just told them. Kind of like in that kind of 3 area. Did I cover these things? And then once I do that, then again, get off the stage. And what I've also tried to do is if I can end something early. So if I got 30 minutes, my thing is, can I finish this in 28? People seem to, receive it better. Or it's better to say, I want more. Versus, when is this guy going to shut up? And so that's always just been a thing with me, just making sure that I have that kind of, thing when it comes to speaking. But for those types of people, there's all types of tools. There's groups. There's activities from the plays in school to acting courses in college or whatever. There's all kinds of areas that you can get into to build up your vocabulary, your reading comprehension, and just be able to have better. Was again in terms of career path. So again, all types of writing, fiction, nonfiction. Technical wise, again, I'm in the IT space. But one thing, Coach, that I was surprised, the biggest surprise to me, Coach, when I got into my career, half the people in my field come from an English background, meaning they studied English in college, not computers,
Facts.
not tech. But those English skills are important because you still have to write communication, user manuals, how-to documents, technical documentation, business plans. You have to be able to communicate that because trust me, I've been around a lot of bad writing. And bad writing is bad for your bottom line because if you have to spend so much time trying to interpret what someone else is saying, things get lost in translation. That means money because projects get, instead of a 6 month project, it's a 9 month project because you probably had to rewrite everything that was there, or because you saw confusion between the business users and the technical teams or whatnot, that what was delivered wasn't really what was supposed to be delivered. We got to kind of re-engineer everything. That wastes time. So again, having people who know how to write effectively, write pensively, and keep the concept short, not too many words nor too short words. All run on sentences and things of that nature. That helps everybody, from the CEO who knows nothing about tech. Most of your managers in tech companies and whatnot, your VPs, your CEOs and whatnot, they are not technical people. But whatever you present, they have to be able to read it, as well as the technical people who are going to be programming it. They need to know how to read it. So a good business analyst, and I've done that work, I have to communicate to two different audiences and produce multiple documents that the business users can understand and the developers can understand. So again, that is, what having good having to write, what it can do for you. So don't just think about, okay, I got to be a journalist. But again, you can be a journalist. Lawyers definitely, because you're going to be constantly reading reams and reams of volumes of law books and things of that nature. You're going to have to get through that stuff. And obviously teachers. So again, this is a big group and category that is very much needed. But don't just limit yourself to thinking that, okay, that I can't take these skills and apply them into different areas. You can go to a whole lot of fields, even in tech fields, and be effective in those fields based on your writing ability or your speaking ability. But Coach, your thoughts on these?
I mean, I think just in going over this over the last few weeks, I think throughout education, I would say every 4 years, a student should get a learning assessment. Because if they're on track and learning the metrics and levels that they're supposed to be learning at, then they'll be able to sort of recognize their talents and what they need to be more engaged. And then the educationers would be able to enhance what they're lacking in, provide that extra support.
Right.
But these, you'll be able to recognize once you pretty much get off into maybe high school. I don't know of anybody saying they want to be, unless they are definitely holding it within their mind and not talking about it, but just taking any of these career paths in a sense. I've never heard anybody say they want to be a journalist. People say lawyer, maybe in high school because it sounds good, but I don't think they actually, understood the steps that really take to be an attorney or lawyer, because there's a lot of studying. There's a lot of reading of manuals and being able to read numbers and old dates and going back and things like that. Teachers, some people don't really look in teacher. They look at teaching not the learning aspect of it, but the emotional aspect of it. They expect all the students to just be sitting in a chair and that old,
Hands folded.
yeah, that's old philosophy. That's old 60s, 70s philosophy. That's outdated. And a lot of people don't learn their skill craft as a teacher, a math teacher. You should be able to understand your students. You know what I'm saying? The English teacher, you should be able to understand. Even a gym teacher, because if you're skilled in your craft and that's constantly learning methods and techniques, then not every student is motivated to come to gym at first period. Not every student is, so you have to be able to figure those things out. But I
Right.
also think the schools could help students by providing these tests and then sorting students out according to their results. Not so much looking at it as, certain grades. Just make sure those students get almost like college. You get a certain curriculum guided to your specialty of learning, but you're going to have similar to college. your basic requirements, continuously also, but then there's space for you to grow in your math, in your writing skills. You are automatically signed up for some form of writing class, an acting class, a poetry class. If you're pretty good with those words, you automatically signed up to some computer class, to some engineering class, a technical writing class. If you're good with numbers, yeah, you're going. So again, journalists, man, if you can put together some words, there's opportunity. And people sleep on journalists because a lot of journalists get access to sports events and events that you see on TV, and you're like, man, I wish I was there. Those type of things. But again, it has all of this has to come through early awareness, maybe middle school, going into high school. But again, that's old education, and old education wouldn't help young people identify these things early, because like you doing now, brother Benny, you're learning at 55 these type of techniques, right? So just imagine, as a young boy, a young girl, learning these techniques, learning these styles early, and being able to flourish in it. That's the gift. We old, and you know what I'm saying? Regardless of what education was, we passed it. The new education, it must transcend as people. I don't know what America's looking to do with its future, but based off where we are as far as learning techniques, learning styles, it ain't looking too good for the world. Not
Yeah.
to me.
Right.
But
Right. Let's move on to the last certainly group tonight is certainly the mathematical, what's called reasoning smart. So again, we see the strengths there. Again, abstract thinking, solving complex problems, identifying numerical patterns, the characteristics of, again, analytical, inquisitive, enjoy logic puzzles, math and scientific investigations. So again, certain people just come out, they just love numbers. I remember watching what was called that movie with the three astronaut ladies, living. What was that movie called? Oh, jeez, I'm having a brain freeze. The three ladies who work for the NASA program, Hidden Figures.
oh, Hidden Figures.
And I remember the main lady Johnson. She grew up like she would count, like she count the number of steps that it took to go to school. And so numbers was just always something that was part of her
Damn, what happened?
thing. How many, whatever, especially you got these analytic people, especially even in the sports world, right? The guys who do the what do you call it? The analytics in sports. What do they call that? The cybermetrics and all those things. And even in gambling, people are using that to calculate or project what a player is going to do in the next year, based on prior performance and all these other kind of things that they do. So people just see the world through numbers, or even now they make business decisions. It used to be, a lot of a CEO or company or manager or something, they say you go with your gut or the eye test. But over the years, they've been taught that, no, there's some numbers that are behind some of what you're seeing, and try to convince GMs or whatever to make decisions based on what the numbers say, not just what they see with their eyes. So that's it. It's not a place for the eye test, but certainly that is something that has, has a lot of people thinking and paying a lot of money to a lot of these data people, math people, in making these decisions, which can be, can result in the gain of or the loss of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. So again, this is an area that clearly, as Coach started the show with, I mean, math is everywhere. So you can certainly benefit from this. I mean, again, the tools. Now, again, when I was growing up, Coach, I don't know if you remember, but I know I was, people sometimes would get coloring books and whatnot. I would get a coloring book, but I was also get a math book. And in that math book, all it was just page after page of math problems that I had to solve. So obviously, it started out with your times table, your 1 times 1 go through 12, and then all the way to 12 times 12 times 12, and you used to have to memorize that. 12 times 8, 12 times 9, 11 times 8, 11 times 10. Just know it. But then I would get books, and I got assignments. Like I had to finish like 3 or 4 pages, and it would be like 20 math problems, multiplication problems on. I would have to. And this is outside of my schoolwork.
Okay. Yeah. See. Yeah.
And so before I could watch TV or
That's a
anything
good
like that,
thing. That's-
I had to be at that table and I had to solve a certain number of math problems before I could go and do something else.
Okay.
And so again, but now again, did I enjoy? I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. Again, I had some aptitude certainly in the math space, but I would have loved doing something else. It was like something I was made. But I'm saying, but for the mathematical mind, they love this stuff. You can't give them enough. They like I give you a book, you finish the book in like a day or two, and I'm like, wait, I got to get more books. I mean, you got some. If you have a kid who just soaks that up, that just loves playing with numbers, the kid in the picture loves, you get those Lego blocks and stuff like that with the numbers and the toys and whatnot, and putting the numbers together. They just embrace that. So I'm saying for that mind, I had that stuff because I had to do it. But you have some, it's like they can't get enough of it. And that would be certainly something that would let you know that, yeah, this kid has a mind for math. They like those games. So whether you get the books or whether you get the apps that you put on a tablet, they love having those. You could give them an app, and they'll be with that thing for hours. That's the difference between somebody who, again, was forced to do it versus somebody who loves to do it. Again, hands-on experiments, logic, puzzle games, structural research projects. They have an affinity for those sort of things versus just doing it. I think I was much more of I had to do it type of guy. I don't know what were you like, Coach? We're in the same category. Did you embrace those kind of books, or did you you just did it because you just had to get it over with?
Listening to you, man, I wish my parents did, give me some structured assignments as learning math and those numbers, right? Because I can see that early foundation even afford you your lifestyle today in some capacity. But as a kid, individuals like the example with Hidden Figures, I think those are prodigies. I did it to my son. Maybe what grade was that? Like 5th grade, 6th grade, where I spent a summer just providing math assignments.
Oh yeah, definitely that. Yeah,
I forget what I think it was learning fractions and things like that, multiplications of fractions, and so I spent that little. I think it was about 2 months where I sort of just pushed it on him in a sense. He fought back at the beginning like you. He'd rather be doing something else. He wasn't outside, but he'd rather be doing something else. But then once he got over that initial shock of it, and I talk to him. I love to talk to him. Be like, man, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to be, and explain to him the why we doing it after some time. And then it started to reflect on him in school. Then his whole attitude towards the math changed. So he was able to, embrace it. And it helped him with, throughout sports and everything. So
yeah. I can't say it didn't help. It did, but only up to a certain point.
Yeah,
because like I was saying, a lot of that stuff, a lot of those exercises and work, at the end of the day, it was like memorization. You learned a way of doing. Like, how do you multiply? And you and I, we learned the old math, right? So you multiply 7 times 8, 56. Put the 6 there, carry the 5.
Yeah,
whatnot. Now the kids do a different type of math now. So I couldn't,
they don't do it. They cheating the way of math today. I don't know. Listen, the new math is dumbing them down all the way.
possibly.
It is. No, I'm telling you, it is. They ain't no
Right.
possibly. They can't read numbers on paper. They can't read the numbers like we did.
Mhm.
That's where it's dumbing them down. Education is old. We could learn it because we focused on completing the assignment.
Mhm.
It's not the same.
Mhm.
Kids can't even add up
I
numbers and they can't even count change. All that's
I
math.
I agree with that.
That's
My
what
only point is we learned an algorithm.
but
But when you get, but let me finish. You learned an algorithm until you got to higher levels of math, and then
yes,
you had to learn how to think.
yes.
And that was the disconnect for a lot of people. For me, it started when I had to do trigonometry. I got lost. I flunked. I think I was
I
doing
love
awful.
trigonometry.
I had a real, but it's weird. I got it at some point. Like for some reason, like I couldn't get it, and then for some reason, I think I got it. Like I learned the algorithm in order to do it, and then I did very well in it going forward. Like my teacher was coming, was like, "What happened?" You know, I was getting 50s and 60s on tests, and then I was getting 90s and up. But I hate. But again, trigonometry, then algebra,
I love
and then you go to college. You know, algebra 2. You know, the upper calculus.
yeah.
That's not just about an algorithm. Like you have to be able to see. If you want to do well in calculus, it's like you got to see calculus. Otherwise, you're just going to memorize the forms or whatever and try to and crash and get into the test. But you don't learn math.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's like the people who are like mathematical, got that reasoning smart, they see math. I don't think I saw math up to a point. It was just memorization. I was good at, gave me a multiplication problem or something. I got that. But once you started getting into advanced equations, once you started getting into formulas,
That's different.
that's a different thing. But these math people, like they see it. Like Einstein, he saw like the theory of relativity. He had to write it out on the board, but he saw it.
Oh, well,
I'm saying those type of math smart people, the people who understand math. I don't think I ever understood. I appreciated math. I respect math. I don't think I understood math.
yeah, but that wasn't your learning style. See,
Exactly. But I'm just saying,
back,
and that's my point. So I'm saying, like, when I'm looking at, when I was going over this and getting the information for, like I said, the math games and puzzles and apps, I remember that very well because it was grilled into me, especially in the summertime. So school didn't stop in June. Soon as summer started, I had all these books I had to go through and do all these math problems and stuff like that. My mom was like, "You're not going outside, not doing anything until you do this." And I hated a lot of it. I hated. I did it.
But that goes back to something greater than similar to what we're talking about. Parents of that day didn't know this information.
Right.
They thought they was doing what was best, right? Because they did understand that reinforcing that learning, that teaching could help in the capacity. And we got the information. We didn't do our kids like that.
Right.
Even today, they're not even giving children any of those directives to figure out any type of learning style
Right.
today. And that's
Right.
the dumbing down, because even in education, they're not giving kids learning assessments early in the school year. Those
Right.
are things you give soon as they come that first week of school. Let's assess these kids on their learning styles, because little Tommy, little Jimmy may have learned over the last summer. They teaching to the test. They're not teaching
Exactly.
and
That's right.
that's hindering the education.
That's
is
right.
all I'm saying.
And even in my field, like I said, I'm in an IT field. I've never used anything that I learned in any of my math classes. Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, trigonometry, Algebra 2, none of it.
Right. So
But it was just but you had to do it in
Yes.
order, like I said earlier, in order for you to do what you want to do, a lot of times you got to do a lot of what you don't want to do.
Yeah, but again, those when you talking young, yes, older. How many people today, right? Even in your field, even in these futuristic fields, are willing to take the necessary learning steps needed to take say today, right? People looking for new careers. A lot of people are looking to restart life, revamp their life, right? How many people are willing to sit down, take this learning assessment, and move in a direction of their learning style, which would
Right.
probably give them the greatest outcome?
Right.
And that's where we are in the future. That's where the future is going to have to go for the education, because everything that we're talking about, it's still going back to numbers in a sense.
Oh yeah. No
And
question.
especially for the future, because AI is numbers. All of this is numbers. And I think and I'll keep harping on this, and hopefully y'all don't get a chance to talk to somebody 10 pay grades above us. The education of America has to be programmed for the future through the young student, the young mind, because they can pick up on those things early.
Yeah.
They can pick up on those things. And again, we'll see. Because if not, it's going to be hard. I think about America in the next, like you say, I have a 23-year-old son. He's 24. You have 20-something-year-old daughters. How is the world going to look for them when they are full adults living off they can't come to you to get no more daddy advice, can't come to me to get no more advice? How are they going to utilize uh, their techniques to make sure that they can advance in their livelihood?
Mhm.
I worry about that in a sense. I worry about younger, a lot of young adults, will they get to see 56 and have opportunities to work and present to the world, because it seems like the United States is becoming more individualistic working, that you can't just go be pull up at some of these IT jobs anymore. They're not
Right.
hiring as much as they say. What skill set are they going to be able to implement based off their learning style to sustain
Up. I think I might have lost coach again.
oh, I think it's both. I don't know what's going on, the connection. I can hear myself. I can see myself.
And I'm trying again. This type of intelligence isn't. Oh gosh, we need more scientists. We need more, people with those big brains. Right, we need more big brains to help us sort of shape this future. So again, I'm not dissuading anybody. I'm just saying that for me, I don't know if I would have been. Certainly, I don't think I was made for this area, but certainly I was given, I guess, what I needed to endure the area. I'll
Yeah.
say that I was able to endure it and do what I needed to do to get through it. But did it enrich my life to the a large degree? Not really. Like I said, most of what I learned, I don't remember. In fact, I probably forgot most of it as soon as the test was over. It was just on to the next one. But where my interests and passions were, those things I still remember going back to college and whatnot. But again, what I learned in Calc 3, probably not. But I had to take it if I wanted to be a computer programmer or in the computer field. And like I said, when I got to the field, I recognized that a lot of people in the field weren't even computer science majors. If you poll 10 people who work in the IT space, I'd say 2 or 3 out of 10 have a IT background, college computer science degree, computer engineering degree, or whatever. But I mean, I got people who came from all over, different fields, liberal arts or whatever. They just went to where the money was. Okay, the jobs are in IT. I'm smart. I can, like I said, I can read. I'm a good linguist. All I need to know is some code or some technical terms or whatever, and boom, I can work in that industry. And that's what happened with a lot of people. But even with that, I mean, the type of careers, I mean, obviously they're there. I mean, if you're into math, if you love this stuff, obviously you can be in all types of science, engineering, financial analysis. Again, software engineering, I would even say now I would be cautious about that, because AI, learn how to program AI because a lot of AI is doing what a lot of programs used to do. You can tell AI, build me a program that does X, Y, and Z, and it gets done. So learning how to run, how to create through AI is going to be as important than just your traditional programmer or software engineer. Again, research scientists, actuaries. Again, I've known some actuaries. That you had a guy who tried to get me into actuary because again, I was one of the few black kids who was into pursuing computer science or whatever. And he tried to talk me up and down. It's like, man, you need to be an actuary. All these, all the money you can make an actuary or whatnot. I just didn't want to count numbers all day and do the number crunching. But again, if you have that mind for math or accounting, to this day is weird. I know enough accounting in order to work because a lot of the IT programs that I deal with is like, accounting software, right? Or if I'm working in an organization, they got a database, whatever, the accounting group, I got to know enough about the accounting area, credits and debits and stuff to make it stick. But accounting is confusing to me. Like the concept of accounting, I've taken coursework and I'm still like, I think I may get the concept for a minute and then I lose it. And a lot of people, again, some people have an affinity for accounting. They just run to it. For me, it's challenging, but I know I had to know enough because I had to work with accounting software. And so that's so that's there. But obviously these type of career paths are clearly, if you have that math, if you have that big brain, that math brain, yeah, I don't think you'll ever not have a job. Or have a place where you can certainly apply yourself. But again, I think that certainly with the linguistic and the mathematical, again, our educational system is really pushing this. And think about, just even going back like 50 years, 60 years ago, there was a major push for this. Like we had to know these things because John Kennedy went up there and gave a speech in 1962 talking about we're going to be in the moon by the end of the decade. And America at that time really didn't have enough math and science majors and whatnot to do this. So the government put millions, if not billions of dollars in education, in wanting to create scientists and engineers and those type of people. It was the jet age, right? And so a lot of those jobs were like, yeah, we need to, I know one time I watched, and this will be the last point I make tonight. I watched this film Oppenheimer. I don't know if you ever saw it, Coach, about the guy Oppenheimer that made the bomb, the atom bomb,
Yeah.
the Manhattan Project.
I saw it some years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was shocked in the movie was he said America at the time, like several years, I guess, before he got on the Manhattan Project, we didn't have a nuclear physics program in American colleges.
Yeah, we did.
He had to go learn that overseas, and he started that kind of nuclear engineering here, atomic physics and all that here. Like we imagine Yale, all these schools, we didn't have a nuclear physics program. So that was something that, Kennedy, I guess, the people, they were saying, look, we need to get the Russians, they sending up Sputnik. We got to get our act together. And so they wanted people, math, science, engineering, STEM. We need more people.
They didn't really want it. It showed, how 70 years ago America's education was behind, and it shows today how American education is behind.
Yeah.
It shows today because those individuals would be in your public school systems, right? Because again, we had chemistry. We practiced with the flames and learning the boiling temperatures of waters, and we had biologies. They don't have that in schools today, not in public schools. They don't learn chemistry. They're not touching anything scientific at all. They reading it on a sheet of paper, and you can't learn those skills and those innovative skills on paper, especially because a lot of this comes down to the hands-on experience.
Yeah.
A lot of this
Science labs.
mathematical stuff,
Yeah.
it comes down to being able to read and write it, and just being able to figure out the formulas to it. And that's where American education, again, unless it changes for the future, it's going to be pretty tough, man. It's going to be pretty tough for people to be able to understand basic survival techniques off numbers. And again, America saw it, that other countries are years ahead of us.
They were passing us, yeah. And it was like, we got, yeah.
The technology and engineering of things. So
Right.
it's unfortunate that here we are still having these type of issues in real time. And I don't think the average citizen is focused on enhancing those learning styles, because as you get older, you may focus on one, but you gave a great example of your nephew earlier, how he was I can't say, and listen, you can't say that he actually was elated to be introduced to those different cultures, but he was embraced in those different cultures. He was just merged in those different cultures early. So now as an adult, he could probably travel the world and never miss a beat.
No. And he's been to Spain, he's been to Europe, he's been to,
That's
he
what
can,
I'm saying.
yeah.
That's part of that different learning style that, for me, if they don't push it to our younger educated people in these high schools and schools that they're closing down, then how are people going to survive on their own? The government ain't going to give you. I know America ain't going back to everybody's in the 1930s begging for a little pot of soup on the street. How's America going to allow its citizens to be the greatest individual power of the world? Will America do that? And if it doesn't, I hope I'm not here. I don't want to be on this earth. I want to be gone.
Well, it's like, necessarily they say, mother necessity, or necessity is the mother of invention, right? So it's like, if we get scared enough,
we gotta suffer first. We gotta suffer first before
or get scared to death. Like I said, when the Russians put that dog in space, everybody lost their minds, and they were like, yeah, we gotta have the moon launch. We had the Manhattan Project. In fact, the Manhattan Project, that was Einstein. He wrote a letter to Roosevelt talking about, look, the Germans are working on some stuff that if you guys don't get your act together, y'all in trouble. That letter came from Einstein to President Roosevelt to say, look, I mean, these German scientists over here in Germany, a lot of them were Jewish. And that's the thing, too, when the opportunity came for a lot of them to defect to the United States because of the war machine was building over there. And a lot of those folks, they basically became slaves. So they were like, they were able to get those. So all those guys who were behind the bomb, they were all Jewish scientists. So Germans were using them to do this stuff. Einstein was like, look, this is not, they ain't playing. If Germany would have got the bomb first, I don't know. We may not be here today. It's a different conversation that we're having for sure. So again, it's been that way in terms of where things, in order for things to change, or people we got to move in this direction, and that tends to be when things move. Yeah, so it does have to hurt. We do have to take the L on something, or and even then it only lasts for a while, and then we get lazy, we get comfortable again, and then something else has to happen. So that's always been what's always moved the needle: war, or famine, or some other thing that always has moved us to try to overcome those things. But I hope when it comes to education, I hope it doesn't need that. But unfortunately, where things are now, it may take that scare from everybody else. The only thing we benefited from, ironically, is our immigration. Like a lot of those people in those countries where they're very smart, they want to come here. So again, if 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 um, if that stops, then what's going to happen to our to our what we enjoy for years, our science and technological advances, that's disappearing. So, but again, not looking to get political here. That's not
No,
the
they
thrust of the show. But there are real consequences when we don't develop these intelligence. We got one more. So next week it will be our final show in this block in this series. We're going to be dealing with the idea of existential intelligence. So we're going to go kind of do a deeper dive into that. Now close out the 9 types. I try to do 2 at a time, but obviously with 9, I had to do one on, so I kept that one towards the end. So we'll explore that next week, but again, hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this. Hopefully some things to think about. As parents, with each other, have conversations with your kids. If you can, have conversations with your educators. And like I said, the standards are not changing. But again, what can you do to supplement your kids' current level of education? Hopefully, when you learn about these different learning styles, these different types of intelligence, that one, you'll look at your kids differently. Well, why is my kid good in math and English or whatever? Why aren't they good in this? But they're good in these, they're balling in these other areas. That's not a put down to them. I mean, if they have those aptitudes, then help them in those areas, but then help them with the baseline, what they need so they can go farther in their areas of interest. Like I said, most SATs and ACTs, they're not trading. They're not changing. It's going to be math and English comprehension. That is going to be the doorway to get you into everything else. So you got to have at least a minimum baseline in order to get in so you can explore these other areas. So just be mindful of that. But hopefully use this series and go back and see what people what you need to do with your kids to make sure that they have the best chances to succeed. But that's all I got, Coach. Coach, your final thought for the night?
I mean, to anybody out there in the audience, man, if y'all know anybody who has a small child starting second, third grade, teenager, middle school, it don't matter what grade, as long as they're in school, even freshmen in college, go back and look at the series on the different learning styles. Allow them to take the assessment so they can get the best out of whatever it is, especially in college that they want to study in. Uh, you don't want them changing majors back and forth. That's not cost effective. It's going to cost you a little bit more money. So if they can understand their learning style early, and it may change, especially if you got a kid that's in elementary school. Yes, figure out their learning styles, what their gifts are, and things they may struggle with. Then that's where we can come in and probably give them a little bit more resources to get better. Same as middle school, or if you just go to elementary school, grammar school, to high school, allow them to take that assessment again.
Think about.
Yeah, well, I got a lag. I can't be heard. Man, that's crazy. Allow them to take that assessment again and find out if they have a new interest. And if they have a new interest, great. Again, high school, you got a freshman, allow them to take that assessment again. They may discover some new things about them. So if they've taken 3 assessments and now they may have developed 3 to 5, 6 skills, and allow them to explore. And some they may not be so interested in. You may be interested in it. Introduce it to them, and if you're going to introduce them something that you're interested in more, you're going to have to engage in it with them. You're going to have to be a part of that learning tool for them, so they can see, oh, mom and dad is interested. Let me try to figure it out, because we want our children to be smarter than us. Other than that, even for yourself, if you're looking for a career change, find out that, again, your learning style, which could evolve over time, and then if you may want to take a career path in that direction, especially if you have a college degree, like Brother Bennett said. Um, people in his field are not even they didn't even go to college for that.
Right,
So
right,
it
right.
allow you to learn something new. Most people go where the money is, and if you're able to read those languages or figure out those different numbers, then why not?
Yeah.
Because the bottom line comes down to another number, the number that's in your checking account, your savings account, your
Facts.
retirement account, another set of numbers that you love to look at. So, yeah, don't be afraid at this point. You're never too old to learn. Remember that. So, salute to everybody that joined today, man. Lady,
Absolutely, absolutely.
sister.
And shout out to the chat. Lady Navoa certainly made an appearance tonight. Always great when she shows up, and certainly we appreciate you following us. You guys, certainly before you leave the show tonight, make sure you hit the like button as you leave. Also, again, consider becoming a subscriber to the Sparta HQ Network. And, next show we'll probably see you guys is on Sunday evening for the Gray Area. So stay tuned for that conversation. Then you have Monday Wrestling Talk, Tuesday Spartan Arena, Wednesday the Hangout, and then certainly Next Gen Training again next week, Part 5, the final part of this series on intelligence types. So looking forward to closing out this series. We hope it certainly has been beneficial to you so far, and looking forward to finishing this on the right note. So certainly for myself, for the coach, this is Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the beginning of August and the last month before school comes back in. Start feeling that August chill in the evening time. Lets you know that fall's right around the corner. So again, enjoy the rest of your summer, and just take advantage of it and learn how to relax and chill with it. But certainly, we always enjoy being here with you. Certainly for myself and Coach, take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Salute.